Hello there, people of the internet. There are a lot of different debates out there in the firearms community about all sorts of different topics and all sorts of different cartridges, and a lot of hypocrisy and a lot of rumors and a lot of FUD lore and just things like that. Well, one of the big debates that comes from a lot of different worlds, whether or not you're a military surplus collector, or whether or not you're a hunter, or you're a long-range shooter, or just a target shooter. There's a big debate behind what caliber of cartridge it is that you actually want to utilize to be able to do whatever task it is that you're looking to do. Now, there's a bunch of different options out there. So, of course, this right here is not going to be a steadfast rule for what it is that we're actually talking about here, but more often than not, this will be the case. There are two real main competitors here in the United States for rifle cartridges, unless we're talking intermediate rifle cartridges, which we're not really going to get into. We're going to try and focus on full-powered rifle cartridges. And the two calibers that are really predominant here in the United States are 7.62, which is 30 cal, and 6.5 millimeter. There is the 7 millimeter Goldilocks in between area that is pretty gosh darn common here in the US, and it's becoming more and more common over the years, but I think I'm going to save that one for a separate video, because it's got its own features that I'd like to go over versus a video like this right here. So the big debate between having a 30 cal round or a lesser cal round, typically people lean towards a 6.5 caliber round, specifically because 6.5 Creedmoor is all the rage nowadays, and I'm not entirely sure why. There's definitely better cartridges out there. Anyway, the reason why people are leaning towards either 30 caliber or 6.5 caliber is because they have a specific bias or they have a specific job to do, and they know the limitations and capabilities of their cartridges. Like, for example, a lot of people out there are just 30 cal thugs. They're 30 cal thugs. I just came up with that off the top of my head, but I think I'm going to keep it. They're 30 cal thugs, and they won't take anything less than 30 cal. They won't mess around with 5.56. They won't mess around with 6.5. They won't mess around with 7 millimeter. With some exceptions, I'm sure that some of them would be like, all right, 7 millimeter is fine, but that's the smallest I'll go. But a lot of people are like, I won't take less than 30 cal. Give me the 308s and the 7.62 NATOs. Give me the 30-06. Give me the 7.62 by 39 or larger. There's just people who are about that life. They won't take anything less than 30 cal. And the reason why they won't take anything less than 30 cal is because they feel like these other cartridges that are smaller than 30 cal are less powerful than 30 cal because they're smaller than 30 cal. There's a lot of different speculations with that, and we'll go ahead and we'll dive into that here in just a second. Versus something like 6.5 millimeter. 6.5 millimeter tends to be something that people use at long ranges. There are smaller cartridges and there are larger cartridges, but 6.5 seems to be right smack dab in the Goldilocks middle area in terms of having a bullet that is large enough to be able to do enough damage downrange to do whatever job it is that you need done, but also being skinny enough and having really good ballistic coefficients to be able to effectively make shots out at very long ranges. Now, if we're talking 30 cal rounds, as just a general rule, there are exceptions, like I said, but 30 cal rounds, meaning 7.62, typically for your very common cartridges, 150 grain projectiles are going to be what most people lean towards whenever they're talking about the lightest weight cartridge that is most commonly available. Now, if you're a hand loader or you go out and get yourself some kind of specialty round, then all cards are off the table. You can do whatever it is that you want. But as a general rule, what is mostly available for the lightest 30 cal rounds is going to be about that 150 grain mark, unless, like I said, you're going for specialty stuff. Versus something like 6.5, typically it's going to be anywhere from like 100 grain to 120 grain, somewhere in that ballpark. So that's like almost a third less mass than the bullet of a 7.62 NATO. So it's just a smaller bullet, so that should translate to less energy transfer. Well, energy transfer has to do with way more than just the mass of the bullet. A lot of it has to do with velocity and the way that the bullet is designed. These right here are two really good examples, actually. This right here is 7.5 French. It's basically on par with 7.62 NATO. It sends a 150 grain projectile at approximately 2,800 or so feet per second, and it's just what I have out here to represent my 30 cal round. And this one has 6.5 Carcano. It sends, in this particular case, a 120 grain projectile at approximately 2,400 or so feet per second, somewhere in that ballpark, depending on barrel length and a bunch of factors and whatnot. But that being said, the 7.62 NATO, heavier bullet moving faster, has more energy to transfer. But the 6.5 Carcano round is a soft point round. That soft point is going to expand inside of your target and dump all the energy from the projectile onto that target, versus this right here, which is a full metal jacket, which will likely just poke a hole inside the target if it's a soft target. If it's not a soft target, then I guess energy transfer won't really matter, because it's a hard target like steel or something. It's just going to bounce off, or maybe dig a hole in it or something like that. Depends on the job that you want done. But a soft point round and a full metal jacket are just two different styles of bullet, and so even a bullet that has less energy to transfer might transfer more energy than something that is designed to just kind of poke a hole through stuff. So yeah, there's definitely that caveat with things. So even though this is a lighter bullet moving slower, maybe it'll perform better. I don't know. I haven't actually tested this. As a matter of fact, we're out here at the gun range. We're probably going to test this here in a second. So 6.5 rounds, they tend to be really good, like I said, at shooting long distance, but most people don't really shoot beyond 300 yards. Like, from what I have seen in my years of doing this, 300 yards seems to be the maximum for like your average shooter. If you can shoot well beyond 300 yards, then you are not the norm. Most people can't shoot well at 50 yards. Like, 50 yards is a place that they just kind of draw the line. I have, actually, coming out here to the public gun range, I've seen a bunch of different people out here with a bunch of different rifles and a bunch of different optics, and a lot of them zero their rifle. Like, let's say they got an AR with a red dot, they'll zero it for like 15 yards so they can hit their target, and then they can't hit anything out at, I don't know, 100 yards because they're shooting way high or way low or way left or way right. But because they can hit at 15 yards, they're like, that's good enough for me, and there you go. The rifle's capabilities are severely limited by the capabilities of the shooter. Now, within that 300 yards, it doesn't really matter if you're going to go with a 6.5 or a 30 caliber, because neither of them are going to deviate beyond their course all that much. Typically, your 6.5s are going to do really well at long range because they'll actually maintain their velocity better than a 30 caliber round, just because they have better ballistic coefficients, less drag in the wind, etc., etc. But we're talking significantly long ranges. So if you want power down range, then 30 cal might be the way to go. Or if you want to be able to shoot at very long distances, 6.5 might be the way to go. But 6.5 is still quite powerful, and you can do a lot with a 6.5 round, and 30 caliber is still quite capable out at most distances people are going to be shooting at. As far as I'm concerned, no matter what cartridge it is that you decide to go with, I'm just glad that you guys decided to go with a cartridge and get out there and send some lead down range. And I mean, yeah, that's probably one of the better things. So let's go ahead and send a couple of rounds down range with these. I got 6.5 Carcano right here. We'll do that first. And I actually found this out on this gun range. This is a public range, and as you can see, there's a lot of crap around here. It's just basically a dump at this point that people come to shoot at. And I found this destroyed phone, and I feel like this would be fun to shoot at. So I'm going to go ahead and take this and lay it over there in the mud. This way we can really see the difference in energy transfer between 6.5 Carcano and 7.5 French, which, like I said, is going to be about equivalent to 7.62 NATO. Now, because we're shooting into mud, the full metal jacket on the 7.5 French is still going to transfer all of its energy into that mud, versus the Carcano, which is a soft point round, which might transfer it sooner, might expand sooner. I'm not sure. Maybe the 7.5 French will have a deeper, narrower hole, and this right here will have a fatter hole. I have no idea. So we're going to go ahead and test that out. All right, I've got us a nice muddy spot right there. That should be really good for energy transfer. I'm using this Troop Special Carcano. I know gain twist rifling makes it less accurate, and these are 2.64 diameter projectiles. And I am actually using a clip insert that was sent to me by a viewer, but we're shooting at like freaking 15 feet, so we should be okay. I think we'll be just fine in terms of accuracy, and we're sitting on some pretty soft mud. So this is the 6.5 round, and in theory, if you had proper sized bullets and something that didn't have gain twist rifling cut, if you had like a proper rifle with proper bullets and whatnot, you could be incredibly accurate with a 6.5 round like this, especially out to long distances. So we're not doing that here. Right here, we're basically just testing power. Let's do a full power 6.5 Carcano round on that phone. Oh, that phone is gone. So that being a 6.5 round that was a soft point, it likely just expanded immediately on that hard phone and blew it to pieces. Because I saw basically no divot there in the ground. Like, there's the ground's essentially completely untouched. We got a little bit of disturbance, but that's about it. All right, let me go see if I can find some pieces of that phone to put back. Okay, all right. So the 6.5 round dumped all of its energy onto that phone immediately. Let's go ahead and do 7.5 French, and we'll see what kind of impact we get on the mud. All right, genuine 7.5 French. This right here should be sending this projectile downrange at about 2,400 or so feet per second, but it's a full metal jacket. I'm not quite sure what to expect here. Okie dokie. I'm just gonna aim at the mud, pull the trigger. Let's see what happens. Oh, that is much more mud than the Carcano. But the Carcano, granted, like I said, shot at a phone. You know what? We saw that. Let's go ahead and do another Carcano round, just so we have even numbers, even representation here. Although that was pretty cool. That was quite a bit of energy transfer. All right, just because 6.5 Carcano round, this right here is 120 grain projectiles versus the 150 of the 30 cal. Let's see what sort of effectiveness we get with this. Oh boy, that was much more than the 30 cal round. Like, substantially more. Wow. Granted, this is a non-scientific test. Maybe that spot was just a little bit wetter and a little bit muddier than the other one. But that soft point versus full metal jacket, that was nuts. I was not expecting that much of a difference just because of bullet construction. That was insane. These are full power rifle cartridges. These are not undercharged. Actually, the 6.5 Carcano rounds are slightly undercharged. I loaded those with 8mm Mauser Turkish powder, so I did slightly undercharge them, and that's the result that we get. That was insane. So that's the difference between these bullets. I mean, if you have one that has more energy, that full metal jacket probably just didn't transfer all that much energy until it went like deep into the ground, versus that 6.5 soft point transferred all of it all at once and just blew that place to pieces. Thanks for watching, folks. Appreciate your time. Like, subscribe, share. Description below. There's a link to all sorts of stuff. Go check it out. You guys go off, have yourself a fantastic day. I'll see you guys on the next episode. Been a little while since I've done this. Bonnie and Clyde be damned. Poor man's Garen. It's a shame that bolt-action shotguns aren't more mainstream.